special council meeting of Thursday, June 6, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9:04. And I'm trying to think, when was the last time we had this many people in chambers? I'm not even sure that was the last time. We can't afford all of you, so you might as well go home now. Anyway, no, on a more serious note, in the spirit of reconciliation, we wish to acknowledge the enduring relationship between Indigenous peoples and the territories they have traditionally occupied. We recognize and deeply appreciate the historic connection they have to this place, the land, the water, the sky, and all that live on, in, and under it. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of Indigenous peoples who have taken care of this land and who continue to care for it. And we want to show our respect. Hundreds of years after the first treaties were signed, they remain relevant today. May they guide our decisions and our actions. We commit to learn, to educate, to honor sacred places, and to take action towards real truth and reconciliation. And I just want to add, as I think most of you are probably aware, is that it's the 80th anniversary of D-Day, in which we are recognizing the sacrifices made 80 years ago that we can sit here. And I think it's also important that we recognize that some of those making those sacrifices were the Indigenous peoples. And they volunteered at a higher rate per capita than any other segment of our population. And they were not appreciated as they should have been when they came home. So I think that has to be part of what we contemplate today, but I think we're all grateful for the efforts of everyone to keep this country safe and democratic. Miigwech. Declarations of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest. Council, you can declare now or you can declare later, however, Councillor Predko.
I would like to declare I have a conflict with the application from the MacTier and District Lions Club, as well as the Go Home Lake Cottage Owners Association.
Due to your membership, I presume?
Due to my membership and affiliation.
Councillor Graziano.
Thank you, and through your worship, I have a conflict with the MacTier Legion due to my membership. And just to add to your earlier comments, the book 3-Day Road by Joseph Boyden is a fantastic book on Indigenous contributions to the war in this time. So if anyone wishes to read it, it is a fantastic book. I will have to preclude myself from the meeting in its entirety today at the advice of our Integrity Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm declaring a pecuniary interest with regards to the Biosphere, as I am an officer and director of that organization. Even though I think I have to observe with all this, these aren't really pecuniary interests in the sense these memberships cost us money. We don't receive anything from them, but there you go. Per the regulations, we declare pecuniary interest when we are members or especially in my case, an officer and director. All right, with that, I think the next thing to do is get rolling on our delegations. And I just sense that one is ready to roll. So we start with SEGBAY. And for everyone, if you're coming and speaking, the rules are, even if we recognize you, please state your name and anything else you need?
No, just the first last name, and remember to hit the silver button on the microphone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Arthur Christakos. I'm the current volunteer president of the Southeast Georgian Bay Chamber of Commerce and Tourism. We're here today seeking two amounts. One is $6,000 towards what we would like to directly relate to a new sign in MacTier. We generally ask for money to go into operating funds, but in this case we have a project that is going to cost between $10,000 and $12,000. We use the $6,000 historical amount because that's what we've done in the past. But if there is more available, or the council would like to advance this sign quicker, they could give us more money, and then we'd have it up sooner and more effect in MacTier. We also would like to indicate that this grant request, we think, should go back to a time when the chamber was a line item in the budget for the township, as we believe that we're an extension of the township's desires and ambitions to increase tourism and engage businesses in the area. So given that the process today is we appear before you in this grant amount, we're looking for $6,000 for the sign. The second item that we have listed is $10,000. That's an approximate amount from a previous conversation whereby taxpayer money is given to the District of Muskoka. They in turn hand it to Muskoka Tourism, and our area does not receive any of this money back on behalf of Muskoka Tourism. So there was a request made through the mayor a while back regarding repatriating this money back to the township for use by our own groups, hopefully SEGBAY. There was an indication from staff at that time this amount could approximate $10,000, which we consider substantial. And if there was any available follow-up today, that would be great. Otherwise, we are still looking to see if that money can be returned to the Township of Georgian Bay, and in particular entrusted to the Chamber of Commerce to increase additional staff hours and extend certain programs for promotion. We do consider ourselves a key partner with the township, and in particular on the economic priorities. We've done a lot of things in the last year or two that many people may not be aware of. We have participated in the Toronto Boat Show. We actually went down there, and from a tourism standpoint, we engaged the public, which was very successful. We've also got other groups now participating and engaging with the chamber over at the Brissett House in particular, which we use for member meetings. I'd like to introduce our manager, Lisa Buck. She's an amazing manager and has made a big difference to the chamber and increased our ability to be effective. She is also the current Muskoka Tourism Director on our behalf. So she's plugged right into the tourism loop there. In addition, through Lisa's work and the work of our board, we've been able to attract 2 employees. One is Cameron Miller, who's sitting behind me here, and Cameron is a 25-year business person with a now degree in marketing and is giving 420 hours to the chamber, which we are utilizing at a feverish pace so that we can expand our capabilities and do a lot of the things that are on our docket, which we have not been able to do. We also have Emily Hogan. We were able to receive our first tourism grant in our effort to do that. And Emily is going to be she's our tourism and communications ambassador. And Emily's already launched a new Facebook social page for tourism in addition to our SEGBAY Facebook page. So making a big difference already. We do have 3 people in the office, and we have some space constraints and some other things. I'll bring that up in the next delegation. In the past, we've done the Just Add Water Festival. It was very successful. We recently hosted the Reconnect Port Severn when we came out of the pandemic. We co-hosted the 100th anniversary of the Trent Severn. We co-hosted the 2023 Oktoberfest Tourism, which was a networked event between ourselves and many other adjacent townships, which went off very well. We have also intending to and aspiring to bring a Still Timber Sports nationally televised event to the area. If anybody's familiar with that group, they do a world championship. We see the connection to our cultural past through logging, and we think that this would be a perfect event to facilitate tourism and growth in our area. The event organizers we almost got the Canadian Championships last year as a first-time event holder, which would have been incredibly challenging. We're now proposing that we get a regular event. So that's going to be a township-wide undertaking as to all the components to producing a televised event. The other thing that I'd like to mention is that I did distribute this through Karen Way to, I think, the councillors, which is our 2024 Visitor Guide and Community Directory. And I just want to note for everyone listening, this does not say Chamber of Commerce Directory. This says Visitor Guide and Community Directory as a tourism piece, and it's always been there. And we have had tourism in our DNA forever. And it's understandable because the region that we live in lives in large part on tourism and seasonal residents, and then the summer peak residents. We distribute 12,000 of these right across the area. The other thing that we're known for, and we've had increased success, is the tourism map. We currently produce and upgraded to 10,000 of those, and we sell out every year on that, and they are on every accommodator's desk and retail outlet in the area, and they go very fast. Many of you would know that we manage the kiosk at the Beacon Emporium, also known as the Petrocan. That is an extremely busy location where we also distribute information for the parks and for several other groups in the community, including SEGBAY members. Our board is made up of 11 volunteer people, and we have a very strong board. They all signed on for a second year. I consider that a minor win, that they're interested in what's going on, and they're willing to commit their volunteer time to it. Together, we have over 400 years of relevant experience, and this board in particular is extremely capable of handling any monies that the chamber would entrust, or the township would entrust us with, and including anything that may come in the future in the form of a MAT tax or the $10,000 Muskoka tourism money or anything else that you can see fit. We can handle it. We also noticed and included in our letter that chambers in the near townships receive significantly more funding from their direct townships. It's considered a more integral part of the offerings of the community. We would like to return to that status that we had years ago. And as I mentioned earlier, we'd like to become a line item on the township budget. And there's a lot of things that we can do when we can attract more staff and more experienced people to extend what it is that the township would like to accomplish. One of the directors I would like to point out is Sharon Hales. She is she owns the Christie's Inn Mill and Spa. She is a very experienced accommodator. She manages other properties. She has grown up developing alongside Binghamans and Kitchener-Waterloo the St. Jacobs experience. She has marketing experience. She has a proven track record and a marketing plan to take care of growth and tourism. And she is a valued member of our board. When you have the opportunity to conduct the town hall for the MAT tax discussions, we expect her to be a big part of that. If there's a committee formed, we'd like her to be the chairman of that committee. She's by far the most qualified person in the room to handle that duty. And she was also a previous director of Muskoka Tourism. And I think at this time, that's about that's all we'd like to bring you up to speed on about where the chamber is at. We're capable. We're ready to do more. We'd like your support in this particular project to get the sign in MacTier. And we'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I forgot to explain at the beginning, but what we're going to be doing is if there's any direct question, I'll take it now from a councillor. Other than that, we're not going to be making any decisions until we've heard from everybody, and then from the pool, the decision will be made at the end of the meeting. So I'm afraid you're going to have to be patient to find out what the results may end up being.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am familiar with how the process works, and I do know that the township has dipped into reserves significantly in the last 2 weeks, and I don't see any reason why they can't do that to extend to the grant requesters here today. And the last thing I want to say is that if we're in a group of people looking for grant money regarding importance, I would put the food bank ahead of ourselves. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Cooper, you have a question for clarity.
Yes, and it's not just clarity, but I think it's important at the beginning of this, Mayor, to point out that last year we allocated $20,000. I did some math, and I think it's something around $115,000 is the ask this year. So a $95,000 difference. And I think it's important to point that out. That's the first thing. As far as the Chamber of Commerce concerned, very good organization. It is a business marketing organization, and the businesses should pay to market.
Councillor Cooper, we're asking now for questions for clarity, not opinions on who on our list may or may not qualify. And our budget has a total of $65,000 set aside for allocation.
That's lovely. I'm making my statement, and I'll make another statement later on if you care. Now, the final point is I'd ask the Chamber of Commerce to maybe give some consideration to our seasonal residents who are not either tourists or visitors. They're residents. And I heard it that we're tourists. No, we're not. So I just wanted to make sure that the Chamber of Commerce understands that fact. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bochek.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Question of clarity on the fundraising that SEGBAY does for our community. I know in the past you've engaged in fundraising for both shelters and the hospital GBGH. And as far as I understand, you're going to continue down that vein, because last I heard you had donated somewhere near $300,000 to GBGH, which wasn't part of your presentation today, which I think is very important. So can you let us know if you're going to continue down that vein in your charitable contributions?
Yes, thank you. It's our 11th year running the charity golf tournament. The large amount of the proceeds go to the Georgian Bay Hospital. We have had other partners involved in that. Last year, we gave $5,000 to the food bank in the Township of Georgian Bay. It is well over $300,000 raised in the community. It's our 11th year, and we expect to continue that. And I'm remiss to not have mentioned that during our list of accomplishments. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Breckbill.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. My question for clarity is just actually directed, I think, both to SEGBAY as well as to our treasurer, just to clarify the relationship that we have with the Brissett House and the Historical Society. We're the owners of the house, is that correct? And their tenants? Or how would you describe that relationship?
Yeah, we are the owners, they are tenants.
So at that, having said that, should some of the items on their request not be considered maintenance items that the landlord would take care
Are
of?
you talking now about the
Historical Society.
We're not there yet.
Oh, I thought they were talking about both of them at the same time. Okay, never mind. Thank you.
Oh, I like people are getting ahead of themselves. All right, with that, we're going to end the SEGBAY portion and go over to the Georgian Bay Township Historical Society, please.
Well, thank you, Mayor Coutier, staff, council, allowing us to make this presentation regarding funding for the Brissett House and the Brissett Homestead Heritage Park. And I would also like to thank all the members of the Historical Society, local residents, and ratepayers who have taken the time this morning to attend and show their support for this wonderful historic facility that means so much to our community.
Can we confirm at the beginning you're still Ron Breckbill?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Ron Breckbill, President, Historical Society, Georgian Bay Township Historical Society, and historical himself. The Brissett Homestead Heritage Park all began in 1994 with a community effort to save the Brissett Homestead from demolition as a result of the expansion of Highway 400. The township at that time played a key role in granting the land for the house and barn to be relocated and subsequently assumed ownership of both buildings. The community-based volunteer committees became the Georgian Bay Township Historical Society, and our organization has been the homestead stewards ever since. And over the years, the Historical Society has worked in collaboration with the township's mayors, councils, and staff, and the tenants of the Brissett House in the ongoing maintenance and improvements to the building. Until recently, thousands of volunteer hours, fundraisers, grants, and township funds have kept the house in good repair. During this time, many improvements to our Port Severn area have occurred. The township offices have been replaced, community garden has been added, new community services, library have been built, our beautiful waterfront park has been developed, with all of its many amenities. The Beacon Emporium has been constructed and the Esso Plaza has been fully renovated. We even have a laundromat and car wash across the road that deliberately reflected the Brissett House architecture in its design. And the township does have an official architectural guideline on record that was the hope of the council and residents of the day, that any development in Port Severn would try and follow those guidelines, all based on the historic look of the Brissett homestead. But all of these additions are like separate puzzle pieces, and our Port Severn hub for over 30 years, many of us, including township councilors, have had a community vision that links all of these growing number of pieces together. To be complete, the Port Severn big picture, if you will, needs pathways, crosswalks, and signage, inviting residents and tourists to come, stay, and enjoy all of what our little vibrant community has to offer. We're not only here to ask for the ongoing maintenance of the Brissett House and homestead and emphasizing its local historic importance, but also for council and staff as important partners to share with all the community stakeholders in the continuing fulfillment of this vision. Now we're going to go back to Arthur, who the Chamber of Commerce recently has become, in our estimation, the best tenant that's ever been in the Brissett House and the most interested in preserving what the Brissett House and the Heritage Park were always meant to be. And so we have some specific requests, and I'm going to let Arthur continue.
Thank you, Ron. Again, I'm Arthur Christakos, Director of the Georgian Bay Township Historical Society. We seek to influence the township in their ownership of these structures to invest in them in the following manner. The heating system has not worked in 5 years. Last year, there was a baseboard heaters put into the building to try and alleviate the problem. It doesn't bring the building up to 60 degrees in the winter, and our staff are having a hard time managing the heat, even with the additional plug-in heaters. We have gone out and secured 3 contractor quotes for the heat pump and for the AC system that would fit into the existing ducted infrastructure inside the Brissett House. We have submitted to the council here through the preliminary documents that we have 2 electric heat pump options. We switched from propane to electric during a meeting with the town staff, who indicated that the greenhouse gas emission reduction program and initiative is important, and we then went out and asked the contractors to rebid on electric heat pumps to meet that requirement. We do have those. There's 2 in now. One's for about $13,000, one's for about $17,000. And again, this is not a grant to either the Historical Society or SEGBAY. This is just to get the building back to a workable heat and cooling situation. The second item is, since the second floor, we have now determined through staff cannot be used for any purpose, we turn our attention to the closed internal washrooms in the back of the building that were built and used years ago when Muskoka Tourism was in the building. It's available space, it's good clean space, and just needs to be opened up, and according to our visit with the staff, keep the largest washroom and turn the other 2 into usable office space, especially considering now that we have some more people coming in on a regular basis for grants and other working purposes. Third project that the township has shown some interest in is a pathway up to the Beacon Emporium. We did have some town staff come over and walk the property and look at this particular project. And it looks like we've got a couple of good pathways that could be generated and created to go back and forth, probably on a seasonal basis, excluding the winter, so that we don't get into a maintenance issue with snow and slush. And we do recognize that there are still proceeds available from an insurance claim where a motorcycle went through the fence, hit the Brissett House, and that $8,000 apparently is in a bank account in the township somewhere and is available for use on that property. The fourth idea is to close in the porch area at the very back and use it as a storage space in lieu of the second floor not being available to us. We do have, as I mentioned, there's 20,000 directories and 10,000 maps among all the other advertisers' information. So that would be another project we'd like to propose that the township take on with the property. On a very long-term view, to Rod's point of view, the painted picture is to create a pathway, an interlocking pathway from this township building through the Brissett House property, the Heritage Park, across the road into the Port Severn Park, and create points of interest and so forth along the way, more long-term. And we'd be looking at generating projects on behalf of the township with grant providers to see if we can't get that final painted picture accomplished. We did meet with staff on May the 10th. We went through a whole litany of issues related to the maintenance of the Brissett House. There was progress made on many of the items. We have acted already on taking out the curbs, the rear porch that had been there for a long time, dilapidated, and we're also going to repurpose the picnic table. It's I don't know, it's more of a curvy surfboard now rather than a picnic table. So that's just the start of what we're about to accomplish, and we'd like to, again, I don't think it falls into a grant situation here. This is township owned property, and maintenance money probably should be applied to it, however it might be found. And Ron, do you have any closing comments?
Well,
You got a minute?
I appreciate Arthur's comments, and we've discussed it many times, both with staff here and with the chamber. And, we really feel that in the past, the township has embraced the historic significance of the Brissett Homestead Heritage Park. We have many volunteers behind us that have spent many of their own free hours contributing to the improvements of the park. And I would also mention that we have one other pretty significant building within the historical park, and that's the David Milne Cabin, which incidentally was a project that the township encouraged us in many ways to do. And we raised a lot of money and spent a lot of volunteer hours doing it. So I think that there is a real desire within this township, both with residents and certainly with past councils and hopefully this council, that this is an important aspect of our community. I think for us to have such a small community here that has such a significant historic site that can be kind of considered between the waterfront park, the municipal property, and the Brissett Homestead Heritage Park, kind of our little town center. And I'm pleased to see that with the increased activity of the chamber, that we had a wonderful tree lighting ceremony at Christmas time, and there's some small groups that do come and use the Brissett House. It's a wonderful place for the Historical Society to have its meetings, because we can have Zoom, we can have PowerPoint, all of these things provided, even in the small space that is available. So I would strongly encourage the councilors to take all of this into consideration, and given the significance of the history that it portrays in this township, be willing to again re-engage in the maintenance of this property. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Predko, should I go back to you now? If you turn your camera on. Oh, there you are.
Sure.
You were hiding in embarrassment, were you?
So just a point of clarity in terms of the responsibility of the township as a landlord versus the tenant asking for funds for completing these works.
Directed at anyone in particular?
Directed, I'm sorry, at the treasurer. Thank you.
Madam Treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor Cloutier, through you to Councillor Predko. I can start, but I may have to refer to our CAO. I'm not as familiar with the lease agreement or the contract that's currently in place. But what I would suggest normally, if the building is owned by the township, we would see the maintenance or any increased infrastructure cost should be part of our asset management plan unless there is a leasehold agreement in place where the contract states that any leasehold upgrades would be taken upon by the leasing. So until I actually review the agreement, I'm not 100% sure. But if that statement is not in there, then yes, it should form part of our asset management plan if there are any upgrades required to the building, and it should come forward that way in terms of our budget when we do come forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Wojcik.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Firstly, I'd like to thank Mr. Ron Breckbill for all your years of service to the Historical Society. It's been an incredible ride. I've been able to tag along for many years in my capacity as a resident, and I have to watch myself as a councillor because sometimes it becomes a conflict of interest. But I fully support what the Historical Society has done. As you know, I'm kind of a history buff myself. And I've watched the evolution of this township from the time I showed up here 45 years ago, where we had seasonal residents and some cottage accommodations. And now we have very large communities. We have Oak Bay, we have Moore Point, we have all these large communities of permanent residents here now. And they find a great value in what you do at the Brissett House and what you do at the Brissett Park. And I can only see the growth of that over the next years and the engagement of the local residents using this facility. I love the idea of having that path going across to the Port Severn Park. It's probably one of the most genius things I've heard. I totally support the work of the Historical Society, and I would really like to see a line item in our budget moving forward that continues to support and maintain.
Councillor Wojcik,
Yeah.
let's not get too much into that part of it until later.
Sure, okay. But there was a request for an ongoing budget, and I certainly agree with you that is an item that's needed. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
One of the points of interest on the interlocking brick walkway would be a bronze statue of Rod and Breckbill.
Better look better than this.
That may or may not have improved your odds.
Yeah.
But-
May not.
Yeah, but I if I can just tag on to that a little bit, I think as Mr. Breckbill observed, it's impossible for us to thank all the volunteer hours on all the various projects across the township, not just in the Port Severn area, but all around it. It's amazing how much volunteers give to their communities, and I think it's extremely important that we recognize that as a general remark, because it's without volunteers, our life would be a lot less than it is. All right, next on our list, MacTier and District Lions Club.
Thanks for this opportunity. Good morning. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm Jacco Spykerman. I've been a MacTier Lion for 22 years and president for the last 7. We are looking for funds to help with our addition for the accessibility of our hall and handicap bathrooms. The Lions Club has been there for 75 years, helping local township, surrounding area with all sorts of different things. Like we provide a building for the food bank, as well as the maintenance and hydro to it for the air conditioning and heating and everything that's in there. And we also donate to it as well. We help other things like the youth baseball. They had some stuff stolen this year, so we had to put in give them a new storage box. we in the past have put an elevator into the MacTier Arena. We have donated money to the Cancer Society in Sudbury, Cancer Hospital. We have always donate money to the Parry Sound Hospital. We help look after the MacTier School with their playground equipment every year. We give a donation to that. We also every year look after or help donate money to 5 youth camps in our area, like the CNIB, the cancer camp, the deaf camp, the dialysis camp, and diabetes camp. We in the past also helped raise money for the MacTier Fire Department to get the Jaws of Life. We donated land to the MacTier Housing in order for them to build. What else have we done? We have dog guides. Yeah. So what we're looking for is we want to put an addition on, and we need handicap bathrooms for the Lions Hall and the MacTier Heritage Museum. So they need accessibility ramps as well as the handicap bathrooms. So we have approached the Muskoka building lot for their architects. So we need some engineered drawings, which they will be working on. It costs, we have to put a down payment of 10 grand towards that to show that all materials will be bought at the Muskoka Lumber. I've also contacted many contractors, local contractors, about doing some donations to help in the build. So we're trying to keep this all local. Well, we're pretty sure it's all going to be local with the building of it, everything about it. So the hall is rented quite often, and right now there is stairs up to both, like there's stairs down into the hall as well as stairs going into the bathrooms too. So we need to move them because they sit actually on top of bedrock in that corner. So on the other side of the building, we have able to put the sewers at a lower spot so that we can get the bathrooms at floor level. And then we'll need a ramp in order to get it down to that level as well. So we figure this addition is going to cost about $200,000. And if the more volunteers we get into the building will cost less, of course. So that's what we're hoping. So we're hoping that the township is interested in up to a $10,000 grant towards this addition. So that is what we're looking for.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions from council? Councilor Bochek.
Just one quick question of clarity. The MacTier Lions Club, the building that they are in, do they own that building? Or
Yes, they do.
They do own that building.
Yes, and we rent to the medical associates. That's how we generate the money for the upkeep of the building.
And the food bank shelter that you have on site there, is you donate that to the food shelter?
We did.
You do. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All our funds are goes, any penny we bring in from the public goes back out to the public.
All right, thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other hands raised. You've been added to the list. Thank you.
Thank you.
Staying in MacTier, MacTier Legion is next. Go ahead.
Good morning, Your Worship, councillors, staff, observers. My name is Bruce Henn. I am the president of the Royal Canadian Legion in MacTier, branch 507. Will I flip or? Okay, awesome. What do we do? We serve our veterans, our RCMP, their families, first responders. We promote remembrance, and we serve our community, promoting community spirit. Can I get a? We had our honors and awards this year. We had actually 50 members all at our branch, and not one of them is a transfer. Our 45-year members. We currently have 96 members, and this year, on October 11th, will be our 75th anniversary of our branch in MacTier. Our branch is always well attended on Remembrance Day by Base Borden. This year, we had a student in the poster and literary contest that actually won zone and district, which has never happened in the history of our branch. Some of our donations, what we give to the Sunnybrook Veterans Hospital, the Leave the Streets Behind, which is a homeless veterans program, the MacTier school, we top up their breakfast club, the MacTier Food Bank. We do 2 student bursaries a year. We do a program called Dreaming of Nashville, which is a member of ours that had passed away, and in his memory, we have students write in letters as to why. We would give them music lessons, and we give them a guitar every year. We host the Terry Fox Run for the past 8 years. We also give to Ruck to Remember, which is where former veterans will run the Bruce Trail, raising money for veterans. This year, the program has been going for 10 years. Our branch was actually one of their first stops where they actually stayed overnight 10 years ago. And this year they've raised $1 million this past year. This year, in April, while building a new cenotaph 4 years ago, we went into the Aboriginal community and discovered a World War II veteran in an unmarked grave. And upon researching, we found out who he was, researched him, and we had a headstone built for him this past April. We had a drumhead service this past summer. Was well attended and well attended by council. We had veterans from Base Borden, as well as cadets from Bracebridge and Aurelia. We got away from our regular tradition of, and we brought in recognition of Mr. Williams, our veteran that we found. We opened it with Aboriginal drummers and dancers. We've been very successful. We give out 2 student bursaries a year. These are 2 local girls that are staying in the community. One is a teacher here now, and one is on her last year as a medical student, and she will be opening, I believe, a facility in the Moose Deer Point First Nations Reserve. We're the proud sponsors of the MacTier Baseball League. And we give to the Norsemen Air Cadets and Muskoka Pioneers Army Cadets. Every year we have these cards made up, and the students fill them out every Christmas, and they're sent overseas to people that are serving. The MacTier Legion acts as an emergency safe place for both the MacTier Public School and the District of Muskoka Housing. We are asking for $15,000. Anybody who's been in the branch knows most of our windows on the lounge side are single pane windows that all leak. We're trying to be environmentally friendly, reducing propane consumption as a safe place for the school and community housing. We'd like to keep the building warm and cost efficient. This would provide financial benefits as well as environmental benefits. Anything we can do to slow down climate change and protect our planet for future generations is a bonus. We appreciate the township's environmental focus, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to present today.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions for Mr. Henn? Seeing none, I'll thank you again.
And I'd just like to say I really appreciate you mentioning the D-Day anniversary and to our Aboriginal veterans. Muchly appreciated. Thank you.
I think it's important. Okay. Yeah. Excuse me. Next on our list, Muskoka Watershed Council. If the little red light's burning, it's on. Now it's on.
Thank you. This will advance the slides, I'm assuming. It's great to see volunteerism is so alive and well in the township here. It's awesome. Thanks very much for the opportunity. I'm here with Dr. Peter Sale. I'm Kevin Trimble. We're both directors and past chairs of the Muskoka Watershed Council. And I know we spoke to you last fall, so I'll just very briefly describe our submission for a request for your support and funding. Our overarching goal is to collaborate to deliver environmental management across our watersheds in a more cost-effective way while maintaining the autonomy of each municipality in the watershed and avoiding adding new layers of bureaucracy. Our watershed report card, whoop, I'm going the wrong direction for some reason. Taking a little while to update there. The down arrow, sorry. Oh, that's much better. Thank you. Our watershed report card was released last fall, and it's shown that Muskoka's watersheds are gradually beginning to degrade in a number of ways. And we feel very strongly, and we have a high confidence level that our existing management systems will be incapable of reversing the trends we're starting to see. There's a few examples just from Georgian Bay Township. We know that Stewart and 6 Mile Lakes have had recent algal blooms. We know that Highway 400 brings salt pollution and invasive species through the heart of the township, and that 9 out of 27 monitored lakes have salt pollution higher than 20 milligrams per liter of chloride. In addition to the water quality issues I just mentioned, the report card also talks about increasingly erratic weather from climate change, more frequent floods, an increasing wildfire risk, changing pressures and impacts from development and growth across our regions, and a number of changes in our forests and wetlands. Each municipality in the watershed has its own issues, but the worrisome part for us is really that we need to be looking at the compounding effects of many of these overlapping or interacting trends, and this hasn't really been explored before in this part of Ontario. We need more effective, fully integrated management to meet the challenges ahead. And if you look at the map, you'll see that the Muskoka River watershed, it functions as an ecosystem, but it actually crosses the boundaries of 13 local area municipalities and 4 upper tier municipalities. And only one local area municipality of those 13 is entirely within the watershed. And Georgian Bay Township takes up more than 10% of the Muskoka River watershed. So it's not an inconsequential proportion. And right now, each one of the municipalities in the watershed, including Georgian Bay Township, is doing its best to manage its piece of the watershed, but without any watershed-wide management goals or tools to coordinate at an ecosystem level. And implementing advanced management is beyond what any one municipality can do alone. So we're proposing integrated watershed management, or IWM, and it's been successfully implemented in many parts of the world and across other parts of Ontario and North America, but it's never been contemplated in the Muskoka River watershed before, and we need it here now more than ever. We need coordination among the 13 local area municipalities to integrate multidisciplinary goals for planning, infrastructure, climate change, flood management, and the other challenges that we have. The municipal governments across the watershed need to be actively involved in the process to implement the policy components of the changes that we're looking at. We already have some of them getting actively involved coming out of our February conference that I know Georgian Bay Township was an active participant in. And although Georgian Bay Township is at the downstream end and fronts mostly on Georgian Bay itself, there are many ecological and socioeconomic processes and issues that cross municipal boundaries all the way from Georgian Bay up to Algonquin Park and back. So we see it as critical that we have Georgian Bay Township's participation in the process. I've reorganized this slide just a little bit, but we think Georgian Bay Township will benefit from IWM in 4 specific areas. One, we've got a great opportunity for municipalities to save costs if we can replace localized single-purpose decisions and problem fixes with more multidisciplinary projects and decision tools that cover the whole watershed. Two, you'll have an opportunity to play an active role and influence in the development of tools and streamlining of policies for common goals and coordinated goals and reducing inconsistencies across municipalities. Three, our intent is that each municipality will be able to maintain its autonomy without adding new layers of bureaucracy as we begin to implement IWM across the watershed. And four, your constituents are going to be better informed in the coming years, and they will accept or promote or demand many of the measures that we're talking about with the IWM initiative. What we'd like is for Georgian Bay Township to collaborate with all of the municipalities in the watershed in this process. And specifically, we would like your participation in the next round of meetings we have coming up following our February municipal conference, which and the next meeting is being organized by will be hosted by one of the 13 area municipalities, which we think is great because we can step out of the middle of everything. And because most of, or almost all of MWC's efforts promoting IWM since 2018 have been done almost exclusively by volunteers with hundreds of volunteer hours, we'd like to request some financial support to help us work with the municipalities to get the process rolling. So we're asking for $5,000 or whatever you can support. And just very briefly, there's more detail in the package you have, but just very briefly say what we're planning in 2024 is helping all of the municipalities in the watershed develop a collaborative governance model. We'll be continuing to educate the public on the merits of IWM. We're going to deliver our first summit on the environment since before COVID with a theme of IWM later this year. We're continuing in the development of our community roundtable, primarily with outreach and engagement with the First Nations in the watershed and our partner NGOs across the region. And we're continuing to build a roadmap and a plan to implement a watershed management strategy across the watershed. Thanks very much for your time. We can take questions if you have any. Excuse me. Thank you very much. Councillor Wojcik.
Yes, through you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation, and certainly something that our township has been very interested in, being our #1 key strategy is the environment. I happen to be a council appointed member to the Muskoka Watershed Council as well as the Severn Sound Environmental Association. So I have a question about the integrated water management, and that is, I'm not familiar with the groups that would be involved with the integrated watershed management. Would you be working with SSEA? Would you be working with other water management companies and associations? Could you give us some idea of who you're currently working with and who you wish to get involved?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Through you, Mr. Chair. Very quickly, first of all, we have come to the understanding now that if we try to address one problem in a one-off way, like mitigate a flood problem or try to fix salt or calcium by itself, we're not going to be holistic enough to get everything done. We need to be looking at the collection of issues that we have. And so to that end, we will really need all of our communities to come together to work on this. And so the delivery of policy that is a little bit more holistic and all-encompassing will have to involve the municipal governments working collaboratively. We will also need all of our NGOs coming together, because we believe that many of the solutions we're looking for will be all-encompassing. And so the partner NGOs like the Friends of the Muskoka Watershed, the Georgian Bay Biosphere Reserve, Georgian Bay Forever, the land trusts and conservancies that we have, and the trail councils through the whole. Those are just a few of the sort of the larger scale examples. We will need them to be actively partnering and collaborating with the collection of municipalities to make this all happen. And so that's the road that we're on. We're only at the beginning of it, and we can only go as far as our volunteer hours allow.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Councillor Jarvis, please.
Thank you for the presentation. The Muskoka Watershed, does it drain in its entirety down into the Georgian Bay, or does some of it drain elsewhere, for instance, towards Muskoka? Or towards Simcoe, rather?
No, the Muskoka. So what we're doing is the process we're trying to work with is kind of new, and it's unique because it doesn't involve conservation authorities, and we think we can apply it to watersheds across central Ontario where there are no conservation authorities, and that's the case in the Muskoka River watershed. But the Muskoka River watershed is where we're starting. It's 5,100 square kilometers in size, and I believe the length is 230 or so kilometers. There's 19,000 kilometers of headwater tributaries in it, but it flows entirely from up around the southwest quadrant of Algonquin Park and areas just to the west of it, all the way down to Georgian Bay through the Moon and Musquash rivers. So that's the drainage area. So that's the water. But I also want to point out that the watershed is about a lot more than water, and we're trying to go beyond the historic water management plan that the province brought in 2006 to look at the whole watershed comprehensively.
Okay, what I'm getting at is that ultimately the Georgian Bay either benefits or otherwise from whatever work is done by Muskoka Watershed Committee and others in that area. And I think you've answered my question. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'm going to say thank you very much, gentlemen, for your presentation. I believe next is our Baxter Severn ATV Trail Riders.
Good morning, everyone. My name is McHaffie.
Oh, is that better? There we go. Ha! So, and I also have been getting some concerns about Violet Drive. When we have our rides up at the Groomer Building, Violet Drive is getting really deep with potholes, and people are complaining. So I've got a little memo here for you to put in your mailboxes to read that people are concerned about breaking axles or ending up in the ditch on the side of the roads, because when they come in off the paved part of the road on Violet Drive, then they hit the potholes and they don't see them till it's too late. Okay, and they're deep. So I challenge you all to go up that road once and then you'll see. Okay, I just want to mention that because when I'm out on the trail doing trail work, people come up to me and say, "Geez, Steve, can you not get these things fixed?" I go, "Oh, okay." So I thought I'd bring that up first. So, okay.
I'm just thinking to myself, if your trail started right on the Honey Harbor Road, we wouldn't have to worry about it, would we?
Yes.
You'd have it all taken care of.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I think what I'm also, if we're going to talk about that for another second, when we're out doing trail work, there's lots of people that are taking their dogs or going for walks or taking their bikes up that trail. And most of them are the ones that are really coming up to me and saying, because we got these vests on, right? They think we're working for the township. We're going, no, you have to ask the township about this. So I just think you should just go down that road and you'll figure it out yourselves, okay?
All right.
Okay.
Well, now we have to get to your presentation.
Sure, thank you. Yeah. So what I have sent copies, and I have hard copies for everybody, okay? And so I want to thank you for being able to address you, okay, on the issues of our club. Our Baxter ATV trail riders are looking for any support from Georgian Bay Township. We have noticed an increase of use of our trails in the past few years. Many people are looking to get outside and be active now, and the rider numbers are on the increase every year. Thus, we're seeing more traffic on the trails, and we need to do more repair work that is needed. Last year, in this piece of paper here, for your copies, we spent $13,242.22 on trail repairs. Okay, and all the invoices and everything were all in here. And I do think I sent Karen everything too. So this year, we need funds to do more repairs on trails, especially the South Bay Trail. And that's the one that is South Bay North and South Bay South. But if you look at what I've sent you, you'll see I've got them circled, okay? So we're looking for a contractor to quote on these repairs, which will most likely cost between $10,000 and $12,000 just for the contractor. And that's where he goes in with a mini excavator and cleans all these existing trails up, okay? And the other thing about this trail is it's also a trail for the BSR club that we use in conjunction. So we want to get it fixed for two reasons. Their groomer doesn't get stuck in the winter time, and our people get through in the summertime and have a good time on the trails. We also need a bit of funding for some T-rail posts, which might be around $300, we figure. We will be probably buying around $6,000 worth of gabion stone to fill in on these rutting mud holes on the trail. One thing I've noticed before in this township and other townships, and other trail managers tell me this, that sometimes they get leftover road stone that we could use to fill in some potholes on the trail. I know years ago we got a little bit from you also. We're just saying that if you do get any and you have any excess, you could always talk to me and I'd tell you where to dump it at the groomer building at the end of the walking trail to the right-hand side, to the east side, where there's a big bare rock that is perfect for dumping a stone at, so we can go in and fill in potholes. These are the items that are on our radar for this season, okay? So there's something for you. Then I got a memo from Karen to say, what would we exactly be asking for? So in regards to the grant requisition for trail improvements, our club repair for the local trails every year, due to the amount of new riders, this sport has been becoming an increased way of people enjoying the outdoors. We have been finding that the trails are being used more and more, thus we need to do more repairs. So I've put together a request for up to $16,000 for trail work. And that comes in with equipment rentals, contractors, gabion and stone, signage, fuel, chainsaw needs for the fallen trees that fall over the trails, and for hiring some workers. We can and will supply copies of all invoices for all the work that we do. We need to fix up 3 trails that are in great need of repair. One trail is 1C, and it's attached to this. The other is the South Bay Trail 1 and 1A. These repairs will make the trail system more enjoyable for all. So I put those together. And then the last thing I just want to mention is that we had our big AGM back in May. And I did write down some things that were interesting because the Ontario government is getting involved in trying to make all the ATV and side-by-side trails under one umbrella. They're working to try to get all the other clubs to join to one, just like OFSC did with the sledding, right? So there was quite some information, good information I thought I'd read to you. The average ATV side-by-side rider that comes up into everybody's area, okay, spends $249 per day for a day trip. That's one person each on average, okay? This is right from the Ontario Tourism at that AGM, because the Ontario tourism people were there at the AGM. The average ATV side-by-side rider spends up to $1,100 for multi-day trips and holidays, okay? This increases local jobs in the communities. This tourism money stays in the community because they usually come up here to spend it here. Many other townships have been being granted large sums of their yearly budgets to keep their trail systems in good running order. When they do the little roundabout of all the ATV clubs at the AGM, they ask the trail managers what they spend on their trails, and they stood up and said, at least 5 of them said they get between $30,000 and $100,000 a year from their township to keep their trails in great repair and maintenance. And they say the townships realize the benefits of tourism dollars coming right into the region. So, and that's that for you too, okay? Have you got any questions?
Thank you very much. Council, any questions?
Yes,
Councilor Bocek.
Thank you, and through you again, Mr. Chair. I was on your trail not that long ago, and we have a developer that is clearing a bunch of land at the old schoolhouse trail back towards the bell tower there. And I noticed that your trail has been interrupted and there's signs up there now not to use them. I'm just wondering, is part of this funding here to circumvent where you used to be able to ride? To, you know, the causeway bridge that goes over the swamp there. I'm just wondering if that is part of your trail system.
No, they're all off to the west side, and our trail goes to the east.
This follows up the 400 corridor.
Yeah.
Okay, so none of this funding would be used to circumvent the work that.
And I have been trying to stop certain people because I don't know what it is today with riders or anybody. They don't read signs.
Right.
And we've been putting signs up saying, you know, the trail's this way, not that way.
Okay.
So Arthur and I and the crew, we've all been trying to stop people from going in there.
Good. One of my main concerns was that we weren't spending money trying to repair something that a developer had done. But this is new projects and repairing to existing trails.
One good idea that I'm going to write down on that is that we're getting new signage from OFA TV because of ONCA getting involved. That's an Ontario organization. They want us to have certain signs. I can get signs now to put up there and put in a post, no ATVs. So I'll make that as an important one to do on the trails.
Great. Well, thank you very much for showing up today.
Sure.
We appreciate it.
Councillor Jarvis, please.
Yeah, I've been recently over on Schoolhouse Trail as well and experienced the violent road extension. And I'm just curious to know, maybe this is a question for staff, how much of that roadway to, I guess, to the gate is township versus just trail? I don't know where the road ends formally, that it would be part of our municipality. Does anybody know?
I'm sure that can be confirmed.
I think we have a responsibility to maintain it, and yeah, I gotta agree. The potholes aren't so much potholes as small ponds, and do need to be dealt with. I have a 4-wheel drive vehicle, and it was a fun drive just the same.
I had many people come up to me, and it's life is fun, right? But many people come up to me and say, I want to vote this Schoolhouse Violet Drive as one of the worst tourism roads in Ontario. And I said, well, I put that down in the memo.
You could just change the name to Violent Drive, and then we'd be all set.
Good one.
Charge admission. CEO Mariotti, please. We see your lips moving.
Hear me now?
That's
Okay.
much better.
Good morning, Mayor Kutsia and Council. I'm not sure if Mr. Christakos is still there. I do know that because Mr. Christakos may have a bit more detail. I recall that Mr. Sokash and Mr. Christakos did discuss maintenance of the road, but I forget exactly where we left off on that. But I do know that our Director of Operations is aware that the road is in need of a bit of TLC.
Mr. Christakis.
The discussion with Brad was that there was an opportunity pending a successful contractor on the highway to provide a large amount of recycled asphalt, and that if a grading project could take place, then the recycled asphalt, it was a large number, would be a great spot to permanently fix that extension of Violet Drive right down to the shared trail. But it is dependent on the contractor providing the recycled asphalt. So yes, there's a couple of irons in the fire, but we don't have anything conclusive as of yet.
Okay, thank you. All right, I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah, appreciate the chance. Okay.
Our clerk has asked for a 2-second break, but it might take a minute. Where are we? Okay. All right. Next on our list is Honey Harbour Pickleball. Mr. Krizmanich, I see you online.
Sure. Can you hear me? You guys hear me?
Please go. Okay, there. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much, everybody. Didn't have a chance to see you guys out there hitting that ball yet, but I'm sure you guys will be out soon. But
is it possible for you to turn on your camera, or are you in a place where that's? There we go.
But just want to say the pickleball courts are an incredible success. Last weekend, absolutely.
You keep cutting in and out, so we don't always hear you.
Try this. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry, it was my headphones. The pickleball courts were absolutely packed last weekend, and I got up there Friday. They were packed Friday, Saturday, Sunday with at least 12 people waiting, and it was so exciting to see so many locals playing with the cottagers, playing with the kids. It was, I don't know, send goosepimples for me. And they're all saying, "Hey, Rob, how do you do this shot? And how do you do that?" And kids that I would have I didn't even know they existed until pickleball. And now they're just taking off. They're all playing singles. There was 8 of them, and they just mixed in so well. So it was so fun. So thank you guys for making this project a reality. So one of the things that we've now come to is the next stage, which is going to be quite involved. So we have a tree issue that was cut down by Mr. Hill on his property that was creating in the fall, all the pine needles that were coming onto the court and just decimating and will decimate the courts over a period of time. So he went and cut it down, even though I said, "Well, I don't have any money for you yet." He goes, "That's okay. I've got the cherry picker and I'm going to cut it down for you now." And so there's a couple things that we are in need of, which is landscaping, which is going to cost us approximately $20,000 to create a level situation that's outside of I don't know what's happening at the park around the pickleball courts towards the playground and on the other side where the bush is. I don't know if the township has plans for that, but we need to landscape around the entrance because there's an incredible amount of dirt and mud that's coming into the courts that I'm sweeping off and trying to blow off. We're in need of bleachers, and of course that wouldn't happen until after it's landscaped and level, so that we could create an atmosphere of community there, which would be, seats with umbrellas and things like that, and a shed to put all of our equipment, so that we're not going all the way back to the far shed at the back, so that people have access to the lock. In total, it's going to be approximately a little over $30,000 to get all of this. It'll be approximately $36,000, $35,000. And I'm going to fundraise to try to create half of that. And it's kind of funny because when people see me out there, they're saying, "Well, how did this all get done?" And I go, "Well, that's funny you should mention that. Donators like you, I'll get you a second round." And the people are extremely willing to do that. So I'm looking at trying to create an atmosphere where everybody's included. And I think so far we don't need signups or anything like that for online because it hasn't gotten ridiculous yet. Maybe in the summer it may, but for right now, the courts are being used and it's just been phenomenal. So that's kind of where I'm at right now to see if council and Mayor Coetzee, there's money available for us to be able to continue with the progress of this. But by the way, I haven't seen you guys out yet.
Well, maybe we're all a little too busy to play right now. And I can't blame that entirely on the township activities. Also, other things going on. But yeah, no, thank you very much for that, Council Gocek.
Thank you for the presentation, Rob, and I'm very excited about the pickleball courts, and my wife and I have been down as spectators, and we've offered a challenge to a local couple this weekend, but I think the Butter Tart Festival is going to take over. I'm really encouraged by what I see down at the park there and the amount of funding that's come from the private sector. And I'm really encouraged to hear that you're out fundraising again and you're looking at us for some assistance, but you're going to be basing this on public funding as well too. So thank you for your work, and hopefully we can get you some funding here.
Thanks, Brian.
Any other questions or comments? All right, then we're going to go on to the next one. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
And I think we're going to skip to the end of the list, the MacTier and District Community Housing Corp, because the last member of our audience, second last member of our audience, sorry, is here for that, I believe. So please come on forward.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chair, I sent a notice in to see if there could be some assistance from the township. I bring greetings to you from the MacTier District Community Housing Board. We are the only public housing facility in the township of Georgian Bay. We have a 20-unit facility located on Yonge Street, just beside the Legion, if you haven't been there yet. The board has been operating since the building was constructed in 1989. The board managed the building for the first couple of years, and the board found it difficult to maintain the services, to bring the necessary property management services along with the administrative services required, especially as the province downloaded social services to the municipalities. In Canada, social housing as a right is funded by the federal government. In all places in Canada, except Ontario, the province manages it. Only in Ontario does the province push it down to the municipalities to manage that. So in the district of Muskoka, the district is responsible for all housing in all of our townships. The district is actually the service manager, who we as a housing provider would report to, and the district is actually provides the oversight to us as a housing manager. We're in a unique situation where the district of Muskoka has actually been the property manager as well for the past many years. And this is a situation that can't continue anymore. There's a bit of a conflict of interest. So our board is faced to go on out now and stand as an actual board and act as a housing provider. And we have to find our property management services. For us as a board, we've not been very engaged as a housing provider. It's kind of been left with the district to manage that for us. So our board is now challenged to step up to the table and meet the obligations of a board. The district has provided us with resources, seminars and things that we can join, which we have joined through the district. However, there are additional resources available through the Ontario Housing Association, Nonprofit Housing Association. The district is a member, we are not, so our membership does not allow us to continue into any, with any great availability of the resources. Our board is operating on a deficit. As you can see, I provided the our financial statement and I have it here for you. At the end of 2022, we were running in a deficit of about $29,000. Where it's anticipated we'll have another deficit again this year. And our deficits are only covered by our capital because it's not like we can go out and increase rents to make money, so we're very restricted. This board is very anxious to assume the responsibilities and also look to grow. We have property where we can expand. The federal government is releasing almost $47 billion in the next 2 years for funding. That dovetails with the time that our mortgage is going to come due. So it's a time for us to reset our goals going forward. We're looking to build and we're looking to develop a building team as an ad hoc committee for our board. The board needs those resources. We really need to get up to speed, and a membership in the Nonprofit Housing Association would be very beneficial to us. The cost is $800. We really don't have the money, so we're asking if you could cover the cost of our membership for the year as we continue to understand our role and get our arms around that facility and hopefully expand the growth potential. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Well, then I have one. Have you been in any conversation with the district with regards to the ability to expand the number of units that you have there? You said you have land for, you have space for more. Has there been any conversation with the district in that regard?
No. The district, any growth from the district has all been focused on the district stock, not a private housing provider like MacTier.
Okay. Thank you. Not seeing other questions, I'm going to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Okay, so what you're saying is for the MacTier Food Bank, Ms. Jordan is not available. And I don't know if Ms. Schneier, can you speak to that matter then, please? On her behalf, or your behalf, or somebody's behalf?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'll just read the letter that was provided from the MacTier Food Bank, if that's okay. Okay, so this is speaking on behalf of the MacTier Food Bank from Donna Jordan, dated Wednesday, May 29th, to the Township of Georgian Bay, request for Georgian Bay grant money. Dear members of the Township of Georgian Bay Council, I am writing on behalf of the MacTier Food Bank to request financial support in the amount of $7,000 through the Municipal Grant Program. This funding is critical to help us continue our mission of alleviating food insecurity in our community, which currently supports 55 households, including 44 children. The MacTier Food Bank excuse me, has been a crucial resource for many families in our township, especially during these challenging times marked by rising costs and inflations. In brackets, food costs have risen 10.3% in 2023. End of bracket. According to the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit Vitality Report, food insecurity affects a significant portion of households in our region, with many families struggling to afford necessities. The report highlighted that the cost of nutritious foods has increased substantially, placing additional strain on low-income households. In the District of Muskoka, these inflationary pressures have exacerbated the struggles faced by families who are already vulnerable. Over the past year, the MacTier Food Bank has seen a notable increase in the number of households seeking assistance. The generous contribution from the MacTier Lions, who built a small distribution center, has been invaluable in helping us meet these growing needs. However, the demand continues to outspace our resources. With the ongoing economic challenges, we anticipate that more families will turn to us for support in the coming months. The MacTier Food Bank is operated solely by volunteers. Tireless efforts ensure that the operations run smoothly and that families receive the help they need. However, the sustainability of our services relies heavily on financial contributions, with supporters like the CPKC Holiday Train, with a 2023 donation of $7,000, the MacTier Foodland, the MacTier Lions Club, and community donations. Our growing partnership with the municipality operates the food bank, operated food banks for Port Severn and Honey Harbour, has assisted in sharing resources and building capacity through the municipality. This relationship has provided backpacks to school-age children, holiday gifts, and pet food. By granting the MacTier Food Bank $7,000, you will directly contribute to purchasing essential food items and maintaining our distribution center. This support will enable us to provide nutritious meals to children and families who might otherwise go without. It will also allow us to address the immediate needs exacerbated by inflation and economic instability. We deeply appreciate your consideration of this request and your continued commitment to supporting our community. Together, we can make a significant difference in the lives of those who need it most. Thank you for your time and your dedication to fostering a supportive and resilient community. Your
You have a
worship,
little bit extra to add? Please.
just say your name.
Thank you, Louise Rivet. I'm also involved with the food bank on behalf of the Lions. I championed that project. Our facility is very small. There's not any, we don't have room to there's no room to keep any fresh foods or perishables. So the cash that's being used is actually to allow people to get gift cards, and they can go and get their dairy and their fresh foods and additional meats that Donna can't keep on the premises. So that's what the cash is additionally for. Thank you.
Thank you for that additional information. Councillor Bocek.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, if I may, through our sustainability officer, ask the question. The difference between the food bank at the Baxter Ward Community Centre and the food bank in MacTier, is it that one is independently run and one is township run, or what? How do the two differ from each other? Because I noticed we don't have a request for funding from the food bank for here, but yet we have one at MacTier. So maybe you could explain to me and to others the difference in funding, if you could.
Through you, your worship, to District Councillor Brian Bocek, the difference really lies into the staff commitment to the food banks, as well as the financial commitments. The food bank is solely operated administratively by a municipal employee, and the financial implications of the food bank are run directly through the municipal levy and are accountably audited and monitored to be sure that there's enough money to make it through the season. The MacTier Food Bank is independently operated, and they independently keep their finances separate from the municipality, and there is no financial relationship with the two food banks and with that food bank and the municipality. However, as the letter indicated, there has been a significant amount of pro bono support for the MacTier Food Bank when our food bank coordinator, Trish Walton, gets access to donations. She shares very liberally with the MacTier Food Bank. She was a huge advocate, as well as the Lions Club in Baxter, Port Severn, to make sure that the children in MacTier had backpacks and Christmas presents and hampers and gift bags. So in that sense, anything that is donated from the municipality is shared rather equally by two residents of the municipality, regardless of the borders, but staff-wise and financially, the MacTier Food Bank stands back from the municipal commitment.
Thank you, and if I may follow up with to our finance director, I'm just wondering if there's a source of accountability that would be demanded upon the MacTier Food Bank if we do fund them. Would they have to disclose their records to us, or is it just a matter of simply stroking them a check and letting them run? I'm just wondering about the accountability.
Thank you, Mayor Cloutier, and through you to Councillor Bocek. I think if that request is made, I would make that request of all of the groups that do receive a grant. It is a best practice to ensure we do receive some type of compliance or at least financial statements to indicate how the funds were spent. So if that is a request of this one specific food bank, I would request that of all vendors that receive the grant.
Thank you for that very much. I know and our mayor with an accounting background knows that there's something called in kind, and I'm unfamiliar with that, but I know in the past we've funded people in kind and then they produced receipts or whatever for it. So just a sense of accountability to something that we're not in control of is make me more comfortable in funding it. That's all. So thank you.
Commissioner.
Just to clarify, to our new Director of Finance, through you, your worship, to District Councillor Brian Bocek, were you asking for the food bank in terms of its commitment 365 days of the year, or this particular grant? Okay.
All right, thank you. Next on our list is the Go Home Lake Cottage Owners Association. And Mr. Hogan, I see that you have signed on.
I
Please
have
go.
signed on. Thank you. You ready for me to start?
Yes, we are.
Clearly I don't use Zoom very often. My background's gone. I'm at the cottage. Thank you very much for taking some time to listen to us with our request. We are requesting for some funding for 2 AEDs to be installed on the lake. We have a large lake. It has 400 plus cottages, and many of our residents are approaching the age where an AED is more important than not. And we would really appreciate some funding from council to help fund these medical devices that are clearly lifesavers in many, many times. And we would put these in public locations. The one at the south end of the lake would be actually accessible by car as well as water, and the north end would only be accessible by water. We do have a little bit of a kitty that we would provide some funding as well. I'm a big believer that, like I've just listened to the food bank presentation, that's a very critical thing to spend money on, in my opinion. So if you have some dollars left over that would suit us for this sort of opportunity, we could even as much as, I think we could manage about $3,500 as a contribution towards the spending, but we would really appreciate some also from the municipality. I think I'm going to leave it there, short and sweet. I think it's a pretty clear ask, so you just have to weigh it against all your other asks.
All right, thank you very much. Council, any questions for Mr. Hogan?
Okay, Sheriff, did you catch me there, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I did say Councillor Jarvis.
I didn't hear it. Could be my hearing, which needs help. Maybe I can get some financing from council for that.
Make your application.
Yeah. Geoff, this is a notable request. I know that within my family, we have our own AED available to all family members. And I know that we've also had discussions at council with regards to possibility of installing AEDs at other public locations, and that's my concern, is public location. These locations that you're proposing would not be monitored every day by somebody, would they? They'd be available to the general public if and when necessary, and at times when not necessary. In other words, vandalism is a possibility with the installation of these publicly available AEDs. Is that a pretty safe assumption?
Yes, and we have some concerns about that too. We're going to choose the locations carefully. The one at the south end, I haven't approached the marina owner yet, but the marina makes a very good sense there, that has a modicum of security. And that would be the one that would be more accessible to the general public, versus the one at the north end that would be water access. I don't have any concerns about that. I frankly never lock my pump house that has all my tools in it. In 20 years, nothing's happened. So I don't expect that's an issue on the north end. And even in the marina, with it being behind the sort of private gate, but it's still a publicly accessible place. And if it doesn't go there, we do have some year-round cottagers that are on a fully plowed road towards the south end of the lake that, again, we haven't had the discussions with the exact people yet. We were hoping to wait till we had funding to be able to do that.
Just a follow-up question then. I mean, once somebody has a heart attack, you got about 4 minutes to get something onto them or into them. Though CPR will obviously enhance their chances of survival significantly. What are the distances, I guess, the longest distances just on estimate from you to any one of these IEDs from the furthest point of the lake where people might be accessing them from, time-wise?
So again, time-wise, if we have one in the south and one in the north, I would say you're 6 or 7 minute snowmobile or boat ride away from there. And the training that I've had doing my heart survey B, if you start CPR and then someone runs to get the AED, there's still a lot more chance of saving someone if they get it 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later.
Well, I agree with you 100%.
Clearly, you know, an hour or 45 or more from actually emergency services reaching us. And that's one of the reasons we really want to invest in this for the residents.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are we
Thank
down?
you very much. I will disappear. Thank you.
Are we down to our last presentation? Yes. All right. Oh, sorry.
Yes, we're down to our last presentation, but the Georgian Bay Biosphere presented to council in April, so they're relying on that information already having been received.
All right, fair enough. So we're done the presentation part. So now it's the decision part. I'm going to suggest that we take a 5-minute break, and then we can come and start making decisions. And you're going to have to help us structure that given the conflicts of interest.
Yes.
Okay, so 5 minutes, and we'll start deciding. Thank you. Ever.
Yeah, do
Yeah.
you want to make it
All right. I'm hoping that everybody is here. I just wanted to confirm that there are going to be a number of recusals, and we're going to try to get those matters out of the way first, so we can have as many people in the discussion for later items. And the first one that we are going to vote on is Councillor Predko.
Yes, and I just wanted to update my declaration of conflicts, and I'm going to be recusing myself from all matters being decided going forward, out of caution. Thank you.
So you do not plan on voting on anything?
I do not, no.
And I believe Councillor Graziano, were you making the same, did you not state the same at the beginning?
That is correct, Your Worship, yes.
Okay, so now we're down to 5 voters or less. Councillor Jarvis.
Just, I think for everybody's clarification, I am a member of the board for SEGBAY, but I'm a non-voting member assigned, appointed by council, and as such, I am considered more of an intermediary between council and SEGBAY. I have no business interests, and I'm not a member in any other way with SEGBAY. So I just wanted to clarify that point for everybody. So I will be voting on all of these.
All right. So what we're going to do is the first item we're going to discuss is the Georgian Bay Biosphere. I have declared a conflict in that regard, so I'm going to step aside and ask Councillor Bocek to be the chair of the meeting while the Biosphere application is discussed. And with that, Councillor Bocek, over to you.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, I assume the chair. This matter is about the funding for the Georgian Bay Biosphere. The mayor has recused himself from the vote and has walked out of the room, as well as Councillor Predko. And my understanding is that Councillor Graziano has also recused himself from this funding application. The ask from the Georgian Bay Biosphere is for $10,000, and I'm going to ask any members remaining on council if they have any points they'd like to make on this, or if not, I'm going to have the clerk read the motion, and we will vote on it as council. Is there any questions? I recognize Councillor Peter Cooper.
Quick question, what was the funding last year? Anybody know?
I believe the funding last year was the same amount. The ask last year was for 10,000 and it was granted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, in the matter of the Georgian Bay Biosphere funding for $10,000, I'll have you read the motion and we'll get a vote by council. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair Bocek. Moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Jarvis. Be it resolved that council, per the municipal grant policy C 2023-383, hereby approve a municipal grant to the Georgian Bay Biosphere in the amount of $10,000 to be paid from the 2024 approved operating budget.
Any questions or comments from council? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's enough. The motion passes. Thank you.
So we basically, at this point, have a council of 5.
Correct.
Voting on these matters.
Microphone.
Sorry, Councillor Jarvis, I appreciate that reminder. I thank Councillor Bocek for stepping in for me and confirming with our clerk. We have a council of 5 now to vote on future matters. Councillor Cooper, is that a question or is your hand up from the prior vote?
What are you eating, Karen?
Sorry? He wasn't muted for a moment. Okay, so I don't know how we're going to do this without just going through an order and getting initial comments. I think we should, I'm going to suggest that we discuss all these items one by one and see if we can't come to some sort of consensus before I actually call votes, so we can change our mind as we go along. So the first item on the list is the SEGBAY request for $6,000 to help fund a sign in MacTier. Comments or questions on that item? And if I understand it correctly, this amount matches what the amount we have funded the SEGBAY in the past, and I'll call it an operating grant for lack of a better term, and I don't believe they're now applying it specifically for a sign as opposed to an operating grant with this particular item. Councillor Cooper.
Just with respect to a grant in the past, I read our list of funding and there was no funding last year.
I believe that is correct, that no funding went to SEGBAY in 2023. Prior years, there was some granting, if my memory is working. Any other comments on the request of SEGBAY? All right. Georgia Bay Township Historical Society, $26,000 for basically what I understood as being building renovations. Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I know there's been discussions with our operations department. I know Greg's been involved with SEGBAY, the Historical Society more specifically, about maintenance on that building. And I think this comes down to both SEGBAY and the Historical Society, their use of that facility, their upkeep of that facility, their in SEGBAY's case, their minimal rent of that facility, and exactly how we stand. I know that we spend, and Greg, I'm hoping you can help me here, in excess, I think the municipality spends in excess of around $20,000 in general maintenance, et cetera, in that facility. Is that correct?
Through you, Mac, I believe that's around about the right ballpark. Yeah, it's in the five figures, correct?
And then there's been some discussion about handing that money over to those two groups. And I don't know if this could be part of this or not. Handing that money over and letting them take care of the buildings. And of course, they're still on leased land, but that would leave them in charge specifically of the Brissett facility. Is that something that's still a possibility here? And could we include it as part of this discussion, or should we? That's a rhetorical question.
Well, let's see if Councillor Bochek has a thought on it.
Well, thank you, and through you, Chair. This amount to me seems to be something that should be included in an annual budget. The asset belongs, if I'm not mistaken, the asset belongs to the Township of Georgian Bay. And we should be responsible for maintaining that asset. So I understand that the ask is here for grant funding, but I would like to know how we would take it from the grant funding process into an allocated budget amount every year that would cover off the costs of maintenance to this building, improving this building, and getting the what is needed done to this building. There is some immediate needs I see here. One would be the porch, it's unsafe. The other one would be the pathway. But as far as washroom renovations and things like that, I think that should be incumbent upon the township to take care of those outside of this grant funding portion. So I think there needs to be a little bit of adjustment on this figure, but at the same time, I would like to see some assurances that the funding would be there in future budgets for them to go ahead with these renovations. My thoughts on this is we have a certain amount allocated to all the different applicants for funding, and we don't have enough funding for everybody, and we're going to have to make some cuts here and there. And I think this could possibly be one area where we could come up with a solution that would solve their request, but not hit this grant funding so hard. So that's my thoughts, and I'm not sure where to go
Thank
from
you.
there.
Councillor Jarvis, please.
Yeah, Jazz was very quick in getting through the rental agreement on that, and there are responsibilities of the landlord, and that's us, municipality, and I'm in agreement with Councillor Bocek on that, that certain aspects of that request from the Historical Society probably might well fall under our responsibilities as a municipality to maintain that building, and perhaps should be allocated otherwise than from this grant request. That's all.
CEO Mariotti.
Thank you, Mayor Coetzee. Yeah, very valid point about increasing the budget line item for the Brissett House for the next, for the next fiscal year. I'm not too sure as to the history as to why the budget is the way that it is right now. But one other thing I'd like to point out as well is that if we are successful in implementing a MAT tax, a fair portion of that revenue could be used to implement several of these upgrades that are being requested. So there's an alternative means of funding that may not actually impact the budget. So it's worth considering that also.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
I'm in agreement that the township should maintain their buildings. However, what we've missed here is that if we're going to spend more money on that building, we should be collecting a reasonable rent. And right now, the rent is hugely subsidized, and that isn't any part of the calculation that I've seen in terms of the donation, so to speak, to SEGBAY. So I think we're sort of looking at it only from one perspective, and I think it needs to. Let's be honest about it. This is what we're supporting an organization with a very, very low rental. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I find myself of the opinion that this application actually shouldn't be on this list, because it seems strange to me that we're going to be granting money through our grant budget to fix our own property. That, to me, that doesn't make sense. And I like, to me, I believe today the amount should be zero, but it doesn't mean I don't think that we, as owners of that property, should not be maintaining it at a reasonable level, and that will include renovations and improvements, updates, whatever you want to call it, at some point. Councillor Hazelton.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think one of the things that we need to be doing here as a council is once and for all figuring out what it is we're doing with that building. We've danced around this topic a long time. The building isn't particularly safe, apparently, on the second floor. There's all kinds of things that we should be doing to either decide to keep the building or liquidate it. And that's a harsh position. But when we had our asset review, we certainly entertained the idea that we needed to dig in and figure out what to do with that building, because it's a lovely historical building, but if it's not safe, if it doesn't have the proper washroom facilities, if you can't use the second floor, if there's no place for storage, then I think as a township need to deal with that issue. That's a big issue. So I would look at this grant application as being really a prod for us to do our job regarding the building, once and for all, which will handle most of the things that they're asking for. And the only thing that they are asking for that we might want to entertain is a pathway to Pecuniary. I really don't know much about that, but it looked like that could be potentially subsidized by some results of an insurance claim. So there may be some separate funds available to do that outside of a normal grant process. And so I would be, interested in considering that. But I think the other things really need to come back to us as council to figure out once and for all what to do with the building. And then I think, as Councillor Cooper pointed out, we are subsidizing the rent on this property or the lease on this property, probably close to $2,000 a month. And so when we think about allocations of additional funds, I think we have to do that in context of what we are charging in a lease. And all we have to do is compare what we're charging there with other facilities in the township that we are leasing out. And I think we'll find that we have a massive gap. So I think we need to do some homework on that front before we entertain these grants. Thank you.
I think we have consensus that we, amongst council, that we believe that this item should not be included on our list to approve today. So I'm putting it down at 0 at this point. MacTier and District Lions Club, have asked for $10,000 towards their project on making their building accessible. Any comments on that request? Councillor Bocek.
Well, I think, well, all of us would like to fund all of this. It's not possible, and we need to rely on the individual groups or organizations to do some fundraising on their own as well too. Well, I'd like to support them for the full amount. I don't think we can support them with the full amount. So I have a suggestion. I don't know if anybody wants to hear it, but I have an amount in my mind that I think would be suitable for this grant. And is this the time
This
and
is
place?
the time to make suggestions.
Okay, then I would support an amount of $10,000 to the MacTier Arena instead of the $15,000 amount, because I've
You mean to the MacTier Legion?
Sorry, the Legion. And the of $7,500 instead of $10,000 to the MacTier Legion. And maybe we can work on some other fundraising outside of this to give them help. But we have a lot of asks here and we don't have enough funds to go around for everybody. So everybody's going to have to take a little bit of a hit. And I think that would be a suitable hit for that particular organization.
Thank you. Councillor Jarvis.
So I think I misunderstood. Are we dealing with the Lions Club or the Legion?
I think if I understood Councillor Bocek correctly, he was thinking of making cuts to both of those grants. Yeah. But
so we're talking about combining the two as one entity and 10,000 to the two of them. Is that where I'm getting?
I'd like to finish the conversation on the Lions Club. If you want to throw in other references, that's fine. But do you have any thoughts on the Lions Club request?
Yeah, I think it's very important that we support our local community clubs. And I don't think, and accessibility is a big issue and something that we also I think we are in a way morally responsible for providing some funding. If it's an accessibility issue, I believe grant funding is available from the province that might be looked into as well on that. But I'm very supportive of our community groups such as the Lions Clubs. So I have trouble cutting back on that. It's a big issue. I'm not sure about the Legion, but certainly with Lions Club, I'd have a hard time cutting that one back.
All right. I mean, I think it's worth noting that this 10,000 is part of what it is a $200,000 estimated renovation. So obviously, we're not funding the renovation. We're making a contribution. Councillor Cooper, please.
I agree that we should be supporting our local organizations like both the Lions Club and the other one. But my suggestion is that, maybe coming in with 5,000 for each one would be reasonable, given the circumstances that we have a whole bunch of asks here, and we need to be careful with the money that we're spending. So I'd say maybe 5,000 and 5,000, regardless of whether it's going to be 200,000 or 50,000 to do the work. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make a general comment, and that is a number of the applicants have told us how they are, fundraising for other projects, and to me it's in a sense, indirectly, they're asking our taxpayers to make a contribution towards their fundraising. And I'm not being critical of the work they're doing, but it's something that I wonder about sometimes. That yes, I want to. I think it's important that we support all these groups, but at the same time, these groups are going out and doing a lot of fundraising for other work, so we have to sort of help balance that. So at this point, I'm hearing suggestions that the MacTier and District Lions Club might be 5,000 versus 10,000. I'm looking for head nods to see whether or not we're going to. I mean, at the end, I'll rhyme off a list, and we'll see what it adds up to, and then we'll go back and modify. But should we pencil in 5 for the MacTier Lions Club at this moment? All right, I'll take that as a yes for now. MacTier Legion, their request was 15,000. I believe last year we gave them 10,000. If I can find my right reference list, which I think was also for a Windows project, is my recollection. Comments on the MacTier? Councillor Bocek.
Yeah, I had to give this one a lot of consideration because the MacTier Legion does so many different things that we don't do as the township that we should be doing it. Things like the drum salutes and the Indigenous performances that were put on, that kind of stuff. I think culturally it's very important, and they fill a gap for us. And once again, I feel we're finding ourselves being short on funding for this. So they've asked us for $15,000, and I think 50% of that amount of $7,500 would fit into my formula on how we're going to get everybody funded, because everybody wants some funding. So I'm at 50% of what their ask is on this, and certainly willing to hear other councillors.
Any other comments? All right. Muskoka Watershed Council. Is that a nod of yes? Councillor Hazelton?
Yeah, I think it's not a big number, and I think we want to be part of that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Cooper.
I think we want to be part of that. I think we need to also take a very hard look at our ROI from the Watershed Council. We are part of the watershed. We take all those waters into Georgian Bay, and there's not a lot of work being done in Georgian Bay by the Watershed Council. So we need to really push hard and see if we can get more support. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Baxter, Severn ATV trail riders, basically for trail improvement. Any comments on this? Councillor Bocek.
Again, we're dealing with a maximum amount that we can fund, and nobody's going to get the funding that they're looking forward to. And I after reading what they've come to us for, I truly believe that trail maintenance should be the responsibility of the membership or the members of the association themselves. There was 2 amounts here. One was for stone for $6,000, one for signposts for $300, which gives us $6,300. Their ask was for $18,600. If we do that, other people are not going to get their funding. It's that simple. So my suggestion here would be an amount of 50% again of what their ask was. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,500 in around that area instead of the 18,000 that were asked for.
Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the membership of these groups, whether it's the Baxter Snow Riders or the ATV Association, they have membership. The membership uses the trails. It's somewhat selective in that regard. I know that these trails tend to be open to the general public to come in. I know of the Schoolhouse Trail. I think we do have a responsibility for Violet Road, and I think we've got to deal with that. But to me, that's a separate issue from this, and I think those associations should be able to finance their trail riding themselves.
Councillor Hazelton.
Ditto. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Cooper.
Another ditto.
Okay. Councillor Wojcik.
One of the things that this association provides that perhaps some people don't know about and don't get funded for, it is their responsibility and the snowmobile club's responsibility to provide access to and from fishing and hunting grounds for Indigenous people. They do not pay their trail fees. They do not pay. We must give them access to give them the ability to and from, and I think this is a very, very key feature to added value that we give our residents. We have a fairly large population of Métis and Indigenous people. They use these trails to access their hunting and fishing. So I would like to support this group. Thank you.
I find myself thinking a little bit along the lines of Councillor Jarvis. I think one of the best things we can do to support this group is actually make Violet Drive passable. And because I haven't driven it this year. I know last year, you know, mighty slow and careful because it's got a lot of dipsy-doo-dahs.
My recommendation for this, their ask was for $18,600, and I think if we get together with our operations department and maybe get some of that recycled asphalt and fix the access point to there, I think we could probably offer this group an amount of $6,300 instead of the $18,600 and provide them with the materials they need to fix that road. That's my suggestion.
Councillor Cooper.
Trying to get that mute button. I think we just need to remember, if you go back in the history of this organization, did we not give the land for them to build their building? Seems to me I recall that. And also, I think maybe even made a contribution to the cost of building that facility. So as I understand it, unless it's a different organization, but I thought it was a Trail Riders and Skidoo organization just across the Highway 400. Isn't that where their building is? And if it is, that we contributed to that, at least the land.
Councillor Wojcik.
Yeah, there was a contribution of land. This was not for the Baxter Severn ATV riders. That was for the Snowmobile Club, which is a completely separate organization. And the Trail Riders, well, they meet at the Brissett House and they start their trail ride there at the end of Violet Drive. That is not their building, nor is that their the property that was given to them. That's the Baxter Snow Riders. And Arthur's still here in the audience. I believe he can collaborate that as well too.
The leases to Baxter Snow.
Yes.
Yeah. So do the ATV riders use that building at all?
We let them use it.
Okay. All right, so it's a shared resource. Okay. I got everything from 0 to 6 as a possibility there. Let's go to Honey Harbour Pickleball. They're asking $9,000 as a share of removing trees and bleachers, and there was something else. Anyway, Councillor Jarvis.
I got the impression that they were planning on doing some fundraising for that. So perhaps if we gave them half and they raised the other half, similar to the arrangement we did in getting the courts originally up and running, that might work.
I mean, my concern here is that this is, again, whatever happens, it'll become township property. We're talking about property improvements. If we're adding bleachers, or we're doing landscaping, or building a storage shed. And again, I think that should be under a capital budget as opposed to a grants budget. And I can imagine them making an application and saying that they'll meet us halfway, and then we would, as council at that point, would decide, is that, do we, and I'll just use the example of bleachers. Do we want to add bleachers to that property? And if they're willing to pay half the price, does that convince us? To me, that's quite separate from a grant. Councillor Cooper.
I understand where you're coming from, but I think we did set a precedent when this facility was built, and it worked out rather well. Communities pitching in as well. The other thing I like about this is the pickleball is available to everybody. It's not just trails particularly used by a very relatively small interest group. So this is broader, but I'm not sure that the township should carry it all. So I'd like to see a joint, Councillor Jarvis's suggestion, a joint sort of effort. Thank you.
Oh, I think there was no doubt that they were talking about a joint effort, but I think that should be a separate discussion under, I'll call it a capital item for the township versus a grant item. Because again, it's a little bit like the Brissette House. I don't think it's appropriate to give grants to a group to then invest in our property. Councillor Bocek.
Yeah, thank you through you, Chair. I tend to agree with you that this is our asset, and by investing in this asset does go up in value. And I think this is a capital project, and I think it should be funded from the capital budget. And an investment of $9,000 via the capital budget would probably increase substantially the value of that asset. So I think we should maybe look at moving this out of the grant funding into capital funding.
That's my feeling as well on this one. Not that we're saying no to the project. We're just saying this is not the right time to decide it. Yes. Ms. Schneier.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think the urgency on this one is sun protection and making sure that anything that we do in the interim is done to protect the integrity of the courts. The dirt that is coming onto the courts is going to scuff the surface, and I think that's a concern. And then sun protection for those that are waiting to play is another concern. So I don't know whether or not there's a will of council to provide some money to be able to support like the purchase of some items that they're looking for 2024. But I know that that's something that's concerning.
I would imagine there's some will on council to do that, but not through this particular process is my suggestion. Councillor Hazelton.
Thank you. I fully agree with the idea of moving things into the capital budget. I'm not sure tree removal is part of the capital budget. That sounds to me like it's more maintenance. And I think that the discussion that you heard or the comments you heard about the access and the kind of the need to do something near the gates to prevent the magnitude of dirt moving out of the courts is probably another thing that should be kind of thrown into the maintenance pot. And then the aluminum bleachers and the storage shed are probably more capital items. So I think that you're onto something there. I just didn't want us to put tree removal in capital items, and I didn't want us to lose sight of the short-term need. I'm not sure there's anything we can do from a sunblock standpoint other than suggest people go and stand under the covered area in the park there, and watch from there, because that's fully sheltered from the sun. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to put that down as a 0 for now, not because we're against the project, but because it should have a separate approval as, I'll call it, property improvement. MacTier Food Bank, $7,000 to basically help pay for fresh items that can't be stored. I'm going to take Councillor Cooper.
I'm very comfortable supporting that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to put it in. Go Home Lake Cottage Owners Association. Just shy of $7,000 for 2 AEDs setups, including housing, heated housing, I believe it was. Councillor Jarvis, followed by Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, my comments from earlier, I think, still stand. I think this is more something that should be handled by the cottagers themselves. I really don't think we should be taking on this type of, it would be a responsibility, it'd be one way or the other incumbent on us to maintain these things if they're in public places. And we've already had that discussion regarding other locations for putting AEDs. An AED with training is not a significant expense. A cottage association can take training and purchase an AED for a reasonable price, or 2 or 3 or whatever, and they can take care of them themselves. I think that any AED should be in somebody's cottage that is accessible, or so close to somebody's cottage, so that there's better monitoring of the state of affairs with those AEDs, because they do need to be looked after. They can't be left out over winter. If you heat them, which is what's being suggested here, there's an additional expense ongoing. So I think we really got to seriously, I think it's a good idea. I just don't think we should be financing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
I agree with Councillor Jarvis, but I would also remind us, I think this was raised when we discussed this before, there is a risk from an insurance perspective, and you could say, well, that's on the cottage association. Guess who the next deep pocket is if there is a problem and there's a suit? It's the Township of Georgian Bay. We are setting ourselves up potentially if we become involved with something like this and it isn't properly managed, or unfortunately managed, whatever you want to call it. But I would say there's a high risk. Risk management is important, and we need to pay attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bochek.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair. I don't have a whole lot to say on this outside of I concur with the 2 councillors that have spoken previous to me on this. While I did support the request last time for the Gibson Lake AED, which I don't think got approved, I love the concept of having AEDs, snake bite kits and everything accessible and available to all different cottages and cottage associations. But I think it's a bigger discussion that needs to happen. It has to happen with our fire chief. And I'm not sure we're ready at this point to accept the liability of funding these units. So I tend to agree with my fellow councillors on this one.
Councillor Hazelton.
Yes, thank you. I actually thought we approved this something for over 6 Mile Lake. Maybe we didn't, but it was supposed to be a pilot. And we, if we did approve it, we haven't had any time to experience the success of the pilot. If we didn't approve it, then it's another topic. But I think the point that I ultimately would like to get to is the floodgates are opening, so to speak. We had the request from I think 6 Mile, and I think that we are going to be faced with a request from every Lake and Cottage Association in the township if we start going down this path. And I think that we need to halt for the moment and figure out what the big strategy is and what the potential risks are to the township. We've heard about that. So I'm not against the concept, but I don't want to take a small incremental step here when we have a much bigger township with many associations that could all potentially benefit from this kind of thing. And I think we want to have an organized approach. Thank you.
Thank you. And I agree with you, Councillor Hazelton. If we approve the payment for 2 AEDs on Go Home Lake, we're going to be approving, we're going to have applications for maybe 20 across our township next year, just because in fairness, if you have AEDs on Go Home Lake, you should have them on every other lake and along the Georgian Bay coast. And we have, I'm guessing, because I don't know for sure, 10 or 12 cottage associations in our township. If I were any of them, I would be making an application if we approve this.
If I could, just 1 second here. We've heard from Councillor Jarvis, and he and his family property collective, which is a multifamily property, have gone the path of getting their own. In Honey Harbour, we've had a member of the tennis club donate one, and it sits and is generally available at the community schoolhouse property. And again, community funded. And so in fairness, we're not talking about a big dollar item. And yeah, I would think that if the community are particularly concerned about the health and safety of their relative members, that fundraising is likely a strategy that should be considered first.
No, I agree. I mean, I have one at my place, seasonally available, not in the winter because I'm not winterized, and all the neighbors know it if they need one, where to get it. I mean, I think neighborhoods should do that for themselves. All right. MacTier and District Community Housing Corp. $800 for membership in a what was it? Ontario Nonprofit Housing Association. I'm seeing a thumbs up and a head nod in that, so I'll leave that one.
I'm in support.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11 items in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them we've finalized on. So now we're down to 4 that we have not finalized on. So I'm going to go backwards here. Baxter, Severn, ATV trail raiders. I had a number of people basically saying 0, and Councillor Bocek saying, well, a bit. Let's see if we can narrow this down to either 0 or a partial. Any comments? I'm not worried about that because, if we end up approving less than our total, it doesn't mean we necessarily have to go back and approve it all. Councillor Jarvis.
I believe some of what they're doing is incorporated into schoolhouse trail, and I think that's important maintenance. Generally speaking, from our perspective, and I may be wrong. If I've got that wrong, somebody correct me. But if that's the case, then I would be supportive to an extent in giving them some funding to allow for the general maintenance that they do.
I'm not sure how much they do on the walking trail. Councillor Bocek.
Yeah, I'm more geared towards funding this to the amount of in around the $6,500 instead of the ask for $18,000. This does bring tourism to our area. I see it on a weekend basis. I see the businesses and the accommodations being busier. I see a true value to this Baxter Severn ATV club economically, and I would like to support them. But I do believe that trail maintenance, general trail maintenance, should be paid by their membership. And if it's not able to be done, then they should be raising the membership cost perhaps. But the ask was for $18,600. I've got it penciled in here at $6,500, which covers the signs and the stone that they need to bring the trails back so that they can actually be in operation. That's just my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
I don't know whether the number has to be 0, but I think I heard Councillor Bocek, who is more attuned to this than I, that it should be the membership that pay for most of this. Well, that most of it would be 17,000, not half of it or a third of it. So I would suggest a very modest amount. Or if there's some aspect of this that's actually our responsibility, it should be pulled out of here and put into an operating budget as opposed to anything to do with the grant. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Hazelton.
So I heard Councillor Jarvis talk about Violet Drive as being part of the trail. And I'm wondering if Violet Drive and its maintenance is something that the township should be doing anyways. And if it should be more under an operation budget than others. So I'm kind of back to, is this asked to essentially raise the visibility for us to do things that we as a township should be doing anyways? And should we be constraining or containing the dollars within the township budgets and doing things ourselves? Or do we want to start handing money out for somebody else to do things that we should be doing? I'm somewhat conflicted by that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, at least in my mind, the portion that is Violet Drive that belongs to the township should be maintained by the township. That should not be in front of us today, in effect. I don't think that the money that they were asking for was for Violet Drive. I believe it was for their trails. And they want 12,000 for trail maintenance. The $300 for signpost and stone for $6,000 is what they asked. And when in their ask, they made it very clear that any portion of it would be appreciated. So I don't think they expected 18,600. I mean, at least that was the impression I had. Councilor Pollock.
Maybe for some better understanding from our council members that don't use Violet Drive. Violet Drive is a township road concession that is paved, a certain portion of it, and then the rest of the concession is not paved. And when the pavement stops to get to the building that they use, there's a large portion of that road concession that isn't paved, and it's fallen under a very poor disrepair. So the road itself, the paved road itself, is in need of some major maintenance, which we should be doing as a township. But in order, I think what they're looking at is extending the road allowance from where the pavement ends up to the building in order to make it a complete path going into that building. And we've heard that there is some reclaimed asphalt that might be available that could be dropped off there and used. I still think there's going to need to be some funding, and there is a benefit of this association to our residents and to our tourism business. So I think there should be some funding towards getting them what they're trying to achieve. But the ask of 18.6 is just not going to happen.
All right. We're going back and forth. I'm just going to arbitrarily put in 5,000 for argument's sake to see how it all adds up, and then we'll go from there. MacTier Legion, they asked 15. I heard one proposal of 7.5. Are we agreeable to 7.5? Do you want a little bit more? Okay, I'll put in 7.5 at this point. MacTier Lions Club, I think we more or less agreed to give them $5,000 towards that project. And SEGBAY, I think we had either a 0 or a 6,000 on SEGBAY.
0.
I know we have at least 2 zeros. 6. Okay, and I'm going to put in 6,000 because I think we have 3 out of 5 favoring 6. So now we're going to do a quick mathematics.
Mayor, can I just comment?
You may.
So I think what we have to look at in the context of SEGBAY and the Brissette House is we are charging them $200 a month in lease. A comparative facility is over $2,300 a month in lease. And so in fairness, we are subsidizing that facility probably to the tune of $2,000 a month, which is $24,000 a year. And I have a really difficult time with further subsidies because we're already subsidizing them at the tune of $24,000 a year. So I think the number should be 0.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'm still at 0. Thank you.
Understood. Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, point of clarification, and maybe we should ask Jazz for this. She indicates rent payable by the tenant during the extension shall be $2,321.28 plus HST per month.
No.
I somehow suspect that is incorrect.
Yes.
But that's what she's given to us. And then further to that, while I am understanding of Councillor Hazelton's argument about rent, I think we would be hard pressed to find somebody else to rent that facility given its current state and what is allowed, what its allowable uses are, and the maintenance that would be required of a tenant, and what we might end up having to do as the owner of that building in order to maintain it at a level that would be suitable to any other tenant using it. I think we are benefiting significantly from having a tenant that is utilizing that building to the extent that SEGBAY is. And I really don't think we're going to find somebody else to rent it. I've heard arguments from several councillors over the years about comparable rentals. Great. But they aren't looking at this building, and or location for that matter. I don't think we're going to find too many other renters that are going to line up to use that location. I think we're benefiting significantly from the use of that building by its current tenant, and I think we've got to really think hard and consider that aspect to this.
Councillor Wojcik.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Councillor Cooper was before me, but.
Well, he just spoke on it, but we'll go to you, and then I'll go back to Councillor Cooper.
All right, yeah. So I think when I read the report, there was a part of that report about other municipalities in our region or in our area about how much they fund their Chamber of Commerce's and what their Chamber of Commerce's do. The low rent at the Brissett House is just one way of helping out this group of folks that do so much good for this community. I don't think all of our council members recognize how much good they do for this. Writing a check for $30,000 for the Georgian Bay Hospital every year, I don't care if they pay anything in rent or they pay nothing in rent. They do a lot for our residents. They do a lot for the community. And we don't subsidize them $100,000 a year like a lot of the other regions do for their Chamber of Commerce's. So I think it's very nice and very good of this township to give them a place that they can hold their meetings and carry on their business. And as far as I'm concerned, it should be at 0 rent for the value that they bring to this municipality. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor. And just on a couple of points, if we were to shutter this facility, we'd save ourselves $20,000 plus a year. So that is a donation in a sense. We've collected $1,200 or whatever it is, or $2,400 a year, but it's costing us over $20,000. So that's a pretty big contribution in and of itself. Secondly, the comparators that were given to us in the letter from SEGBAY, unfortunately, we're talking about very large communities like Huntsville, which have several hotels in the area. And, that's a different tourist destination than our destination, which is relatively modest from a tourist perspective. Well, let's call a spade here. And so those comparators are just not relevant at all. Huntsville, Bracebridge, Gravenhurst, different animal. The Highway 11 corridor and the tourism in Muskoka tourism is focused on those places, not on us, because we are a quiet place, relatively speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to, at this point, call a vote on the SEGBAY funding. And I have to have one moment, please, and I'm going to read that out, and we will. Okay. Okay. I didn't know I was an honor, but Clerk Way, can you take a recorded vote on this one, please, in the amount of, we'll put $6,000.
Do you want to read that or do you?
Okay, moved by Councillor Bocheck, seconded by Councillor Jarvis. Be it resolved, the council per the municipal.
Microphone, please.
Oh, you caught me again. Sorry about that. I say moved by Councillor Bocheck, seconded by Councillor Jarvis. Be it resolved, the council per the municipal grant policy C 2023-383 hereby approve a municipal grant to SEGBAY in the amount of $6,000 to be paid from the 2024 approved operating budget. Ms. Way.
Let the record show that Councillor Bocheck requested a recorded vote. Councillor Bocheck, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councillor Cooper, how do you vote?
No.
Councillor Hazelton, how do you vote?
No.
Councillor Jarvis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Kutsier, how do you vote?
Yes.
Let the record show the motion carries 3-2.
Okay. So now let's go through the rest of the list like that. And I'm not calling a vote on the Georgian Bay Township Historical Society because I think we all agree that should, or do I have to still call a vote on it? Because we all agree that should be part of our capital or discussion. Okay. All right.
Mayor, if you don't mind.
Please go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, I know that we have a certain amount of money set aside for grant policy. If we total up what we've talked about so far, what does it come to? Do we know?
Yes, I can do that math for you, or has it already been done? For $46,300 at this point. This is assuming 6,000 for SEGBAY, 5,000 for MacTier Lions, 7,500 for the Legion, 5,000 for the Watershed, 5,000 for the ATV Trail Riders, 7,000 for the Food Bank, 10,000 for the Biosphere was already approved, and $800 for District Housing Corporation.
Thank you.
That adds, so in other words, almost 19,000 we have not yet allocated if we approve these particular amounts. So that's potential future allocation.
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Cooper, followed by Councillor Bocheck, please.
Just as a reminder that we have essentially taken some of these expenses and moved them elsewhere. So it's not a pure number that we're talking about here. We're taking some of them over to operating. So we need to remember that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bocheck.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, given the allocated amount and the amount that's already been allocated, one of my thoughts when it came to the Historical Society was the pathway from the Petrocran to the park, which is going to be hugely valuable, is not a improvement to an asset. In other words, we're not doing an improvement to the building and the building is gaining value from it. This is sort of a new endeavor separate to the maintenance of the building. In other words, I'm not sure it belongs in the capital costs or if that particular part would belong in the grant fund.
We own that land, so it should be part of our land improvement costs.
Okay, so that could be included in a capital budget project.
Yes.
Okay. And if I may ask another question of our clerk, when it comes to capital projects like this and the funding of capital projects, is this something that can be brought, say, next month or the month after to council and asking council to approve it for the budget as a line item?
In a word, yes.
Okay.
I mean, we already have a budget set, but that doesn't stop anybody from making an application. Sorry. To our treasurer, she'll probably speak more knowledgeably.
Thank you, Mayor Kutsir, through you to Councillor Bocek. My recommendation would be to have a resolution to include it as part of the 2025 budget so that council has the opportunity to review all capital requests, township-wide as well, that are required so that they can review them all and make their priorities at that time based on what is needed.
Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble hearing Jazz on that, but I think I got the gist of it. I'm a little concerned. I think the idea is right, but there's some urgency with some of the requests from the Historical Society. I don't think they want to go through another winter with the current heating system they have, as an example. So I think there's got to be some way of addressing their request for this year, and the sooner the better.
I've forgotten how much the heating portion of it, they didn't even have a quote for that at this point. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, didn't.
Councillor Bocek. This meeting should have ended already.
Yeah, I know. Through you, we just had a delegation done about township assets and townships buildings and upgrading, and lowering our carbon footprint. Being that this is an asset of the township, should this not have been included in that report?
Absolutely.
And it was not. So I think we need to revisit that as well too. Not only upgrade the heating ventilation system in there, but bring it into conformity with our 80% reduction in emissions as well too. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go back to the list. And I have moved by Councillor Hazel, and this is not in the order that is in front of me, and I'm not trying to sort them, so we're just going to do this as they're in front of me. So I apologize for that, but this one is on the Watershed Council. I have moved by Councillor Hazelton, second by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved, the council per the municipal grant, you know all that stuff. But anyway, be it resolved, the council for the municipal grant C 2023-383 hereby approve a municipal grant to the Muskoka Watershed Council in the amount of $5,000. That's what it was. Yes. $5,000 to be paid from the 2024 approved operating budget. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Be it resolved, moved by Councillor Jarvis, second by Councillor Bocek. Be it resolved, the council, per the municipal grant policy, approve a municipal grant to the MacTier and District Community Housing Corporation in the amount of $800. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And then I have moved by Councillor Bocek, second by Councillor Jarvis. Be it resolved that council, per the municipal grant policy, hereby approve a municipal grant to the Honey Harbour Pickleball in the amount of, they asked for $9,000. But you wanted me to do this. Okay. So all those in favor of the $9,000, the pickleball. And that is defeated. Maybe.
I believe there's a certain amount of goodwill, and the public has funded at least 50% of this in the past, and I think that's a good formula moving forward. So I would propose a friendly amendment to allow $4,500 to the Honey Harbour Pickleball.
Do you have a seconder for that motion?
And
Councillor Jarvis?
I have a Councillor Jarvis as a seconder.
All those in favor of the amendment? Okay, that the amendment has passed, so now we have to do the original motion. So I don't have to. So that means this whole thing. Okay, all those in agreement with $4,500 for pickleball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that is carried. Oh, you guys like to confuse me. All right. I have moved by Councillor Jarvis, second by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved, the Council for the Municipal Grant Policy hereby approves to the Georgian Bay Township Historical Society in the amount of, any friendly amendments? Okay, because it's 26,000 was the request. Councillors Bocheck and Jarvis are hemming and hawing. Councillor Bocheck?
I'm doing lots of hemming and hawing here.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, is this the last item?
No.
It's not. And we had a running total and we've increased it. And I'm
Yes.
just wondering how close we're getting to because I do see a value in the Historical Society
I'll put it at the bottom of the list and we'll go through the other ones. And
That
then
would
we'll
be
get back to you.
appreciated.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Jarvis, second by Councillor Bocheck. Be it grant to the MacTier Legion Branch 507. We had proposed, they had asked 15, we had proposed 7,500. Should I stick with the 7,500? All those in favor, 7,500 for MacTier Legion. And that is carried. Thank you. Okay. Moved by Councillor Bocheck, second by Councillor Hazelton. MacTier and District Lions Club. We had reduced their 10 to 5. Everybody still in favor of 5? All those in favor? All right, and that is carried for 5,000 for the Lions Club. Okay, then we have moved by Councillor Hazelton, seconded by Councillor Jarvis. Go Home Lake Cottage Owners Association for $6,859.64. All those in favor? That is defeated. Thank you. MacTier Food Bank, moved by Councillor Hazelton, seconded by Councillor Cooper. The MacTier Food Bank for, what was it here? Was it $7,000. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. So now, now the two left are the Trail Riders and the Historical Society. So the Trail Riders, they asked 18,006. At one point, it was suggested 5,000. Any other comment? I'm putting in 5,000. All those in favor? 1. That is defeated. Now we're down to the Historical Society. Moved by Councillor Jarvis, second by Councillor Cooper. And at this point, we have approved 45,800. So in theory, we have 19,200 left in our budget if we were to spend it all.
Mayor, can I suggest something?
You may.
The ask here is for maintenance items, generally washroom renovations and porch enclosures. I think that's both should fall under our tenant responsibility. The pathway to Petrocan, I think, is outside of kind of an asset or maintenance kind of consideration. They have suggested that there's funds available from the result of that motorcycle incident, and that ask is for $8,000. I would certainly be willing to support an $8,000 bid so that they can go off and do that. But I would want our operations people to essentially commit to do the other things that are needed to maintain the building properly.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
Just a bit of history here. The tourism brochures and so forth, and basically the Muskoka Tourism Association had a facility in this building at one point. Has so little traffic, regardless of pathways, there was so little traffic that it was moved, and racks and so forth were put up in the Petrocan so people could pick up brochures about Georgian Bay tourism. And is it the plan I didn't read that in this. So is it the plan to close the tourist facility that's in the Petrocan and move it down into this building? If it is, I'd say it's unnecessary. It's much better traffic up in the Petrocan. So what is the objective here? I'm not getting the objective of the pathway. If we keep the tourism brochures up at the Petrocan, show me the reason for the pathway.
I think the simple reason is the pathway. It makes it much easier to get from the Petrocan station where most people park down to the historical site. Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, and to clarify, the Councillor Cooper probably hasn't spent much time either at Brissett House or up at the Petrocan, but there is significant advertising via live TV and a kiosk at the Petrocan. That is to remain and is very active and is seeing very, very good usage. And yes, as per the mayor's comments on the path, it is to move people not down to the Brissett House to pick up brochures. It's down into the Historical Society's grounds to have a look around, spend some time, maybe walk their dog, and have a little bit of peace and quiet when they're on the road, having their cars charged or whatever else. And the Brissett House will be maintained by SEGBAY and the Historical Society. I believe Muskoka Tourism has basically moved out. I would even suggest that they've seemed to have abandoned us entirely. To wit, there's a $10,000 stipend we send over there every year that maybe we should be working very, very hard on getting back and spending as we see fit, as opposed to having Muskoka spend it as they see fit. But yeah, that kiosk up in the Petrocan is to remain.
Thank you for that clarification and good luck in getting any money back. Thanks.
Councillor Wojcik.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Being that we're at $45,000 of the $65,000 that was approved, I would like to put forward a friendly amendment that for the Georgian Bay Township Historical Society, that we fund the pathway from the Petrocan down to the park area at the amount of $8,000, and that the balance of $18,000 be put on an agenda for capital funding for the 2025 budget. Thank you.
Okay, I think, and Councillor Hazelton, I think, would second the 8,000 for the pathway because he's already made that prep. So I'm going to suggest we do two motions. One is to approve $8,000 funding for the Historical Society. We'll see if that passes. And the second one would be to take the remainder of the Georgian Bay Township Historical Society request and refer it to staff to come back with a report next month as to where things should or should not go. So my first motion is moved by Councillor Jarvis, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved that council, per the municipal grant, hereby approves the Georgian Bay Township Historical Society $8,000 towards the pathway. All those in favor? And that is carried. And number two, it'll be moved by Councillor Wojcik, seconded by Councillor Hazelton. Be it resolved that council refer the remaining requests of the Township, Georgian Bay Township Historical Society to staff for a report back. Councillor Jarvis.
Can we include that there's some level of urgency on this?
Next month.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
All those in favor? And that is carried. All right. Moved by Councillor Wojcik, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved the council adopts bylaw 2024-059 to confirm the proceedings of the June 6, 2024 council meeting. All those in favor? Do we? Okay. Well, welcome back. Moved by Councillor Predko, seconded by Councillor Cooper, that we confirm 2024-059 for the proceedings of this meeting. All those in favor? And that is carried. Moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Predko. The council does now adjourn at 12:15. p.m. until July 8th, 2024 at 9 a.m. or the call of the chair. All those in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank you very much. And I got to get the hell out of here.